teach on the coach. Dave is an esteemed speaker. He's an advanced speaker. He's working towards his DTM. And so we're looking forward to seeing an advanced project from such an esteemed speaker. So without any further ado, let's bring forth David Garessa with a round of applause.
I really don't like when he does that. He boosts me up, and then when I fail, it's like a huge letdown. So, no pressure. So today I want to talk about the coach, and you can start the timer if you haven't already. How many of you feel that you understand today what coaching is? Just by show of hands. Okay. So I do want to kind of present for me. I think there was at least one or two that didn't. I want to spend a couple different examples just kind of explaining what it is and what it isn't. And the first thing is just to bring up the example of riding a bike. How many of you have learned to ride a bike? Hopefully everyone. Riding a bike is a struggle for most kids as we go through that part of our childhood, and often we have our parents there holding the bike, or at least somebody. In my case, I actually learned and self-taught myself to ride a bike. And essentially what that meant was getting out on the bike and falling repeatedly and hurting myself repeatedly and getting right back up and trying it again until eventually I was going 25 feet, and then I was going 50 feet, and then I was going a whole football field, and then I would fall, and it would be even worse because you're going faster at that point. But either way, the point is that you get up, you keep trying until eventually you master the skill. Coaching is a lot like that because coaching is not so much physical in many cases. We think of it often in the terms of sports, when in actuality, when we coach in executive coaching or coach in business, or more specifically to reach a specific goal, it's more of a mental game. So as you go forward, there's the proverbial fall, if you will. You get back up, you fail essentially. You learn from that failure, you keep moving. The coach's job is simply to facilitate that process. So the coach's job is not to get you to reach the goal or reach the goal for you. That's the important part. The coach's job is just to help you get to the goal. Whose responsibility is it to get to the goal? Is it the coach's or is it the client?
The client.
That's absolutely correct. The client holds that responsibility. So if they don't schedule meetings, if they don't show up, then that's on the client. That's not on the coach. If they don't achieve their goal, that's on the client. That's not on the coach, right? So that's important. The other way I want to explain coaching is in the context of teaching, mentoring, and coaching. These are actually three different things that are often confused. Specifically mentoring and coaching. Teaching's pretty obvious. That's kind of what I'm doing exactly right now. This is teaching. I'm transferring information from me to you. Mentoring requires you to have a certain level of experience that's typically higher than the person you're mentoring. So that would require me to share my personal experiences with you so that you can then use those experiences to actually benefit yourself and move yourself forward. But there's a lot more of a sort of a two-way conversation. It can be relatively equal even, a lot of times in a mentor-mentee relationship. Coaching's a little different. In the ideal situation, not necessarily in every session, but in the ideal situation, the coachee is doing more of the talking. Because essentially, remember, this is a goal that they're trying to achieve. The coach is mastering the art of asking more powerful questions, trying to unlock doors in their mind and shifting paradigms that exist. Paradigm is important to understand too. Patterns are derived from, so you have behaviors. Those behaviors repetitively performed over time produce habits. Groupings of habits in your mind form paradigms. How does a paradigm work? If I were to say something to you that we would call a quote-unquote trigger, right? Everybody knows what a trigger is. Maybe you get really upset or you get really emotional, and sometimes you don't even understand why. All you know is somebody came in the room, they said something that rubbed you wrong, and you felt a certain kind of way about it. That is a paradigm. It's like heartbeat. You don't think about making your heart beat. It just sort of happens. That's because there's a mental map already programmed in your mind that draws you down this path that's what a paradigm is, and you respond. There's a stimulus, and then there's a response. What a coach is essentially doing from a scientific perspective is they're pulling that paradigm forward to your conscious mind, because most of us don't realize that a lot of what's happening is we're functioning outside of our subconscious mind. So now that it's in your conscious mind, you are aware of it. That's the important part. Once you become aware of something and you see how the things connect, you're able to make new patterns, new behaviors that form new habits that now ultimately lead to forming a new paradigm. The process is painful, it's lengthy, and this is why it requires you to have somebody there asking you the tough questions so that you can repetitively change your behaviors over and over and over. You'll hear coaches talk about saying certain things, chants, different things of that nature. The reason is so that you can repeat a different behavior over and over so it reforms a mental map. So that's the end of my time for this particular process. As Dalvin unfolded at the beginning of the meeting, I am going to be looking for a volunteer. I'm looking for somebody that kind of is dealing with a struggle right now. The manual says let's just make something up and go with it, but I would rather work with somebody who's actually dealing with a real thing that they'd like to talk through. This can't be complicated. It's 3 to 5 minutes. So while you're thinking about who you'd like to be and who wants to be the volunteer, I'll wait for that. I got about 30 seconds to kind of explain how this is going to work. For this, I'm going to be using what's called the GROW model. So there are many different types of models of coaching. GROW it's an acronym, right? So GROW, the G really is the goal. What is it that you're trying to get to? What do you want? The R is the reality. What situation are you in? What's keeping you? Where are you today? And then the O is the options. What could you do to move forward? And W stands for the way forward. So as you think about that, it's really where are you, or where do you want to be? Where are you now? What could you do? And then what are the action items you're going to take? So the goal here is really that you walk out of it going, okay, I have something I'm actually going to do to start moving forward when I walk out of this room. And that's why I want it to be a real thing, because I actually want to practice this in front of you all and actually arrive at an actual action item at the end, at least one, if not more. So who would like to be my volunteer?
We have a volunteer for someone who doesn't have a role today?
Who doesn't have a role?
Doesn't have a role?
Okay, I'll be your volunteer, because I may not get to do table topics. Oh, you want to let somebody else do this one?
So
Emma, do you feel comfortable?
Sure.
You have a problem.
Yeah,
you have a problem. Surely
has a problem deciding what to do.
Problem, but I'm not
I'll do
sure
it.
if I.
She can take timer if you want.
Doesn't matter to me.
Or,
Whoever
Linda,
would like.
did you have something? Yeah, then go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay.
Because I don't think we're going to have time for table topics.
Okay. So my situation is.
You want to come
Please.
up?
Oh.
You have to come sit up here. This is role play.
Hey, will you move that?
We gotta put our hats on.
Okay. Hopefully this is appropriate. Okay.
It's as appropriate as you would like.
We're all
So why-
adults
why-
here.
Not like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
What can I do for you today?
So my situation, I'm a first lady, okay, pastor's wife. So, in the work environment as a manager, I can ask people and I can expect something to happen. However, in a church environment, I ask and I expect, but it may not happen. And so I have to work with people who do not have to respond to me, but I still want them to do what I'm asking them to do. So how can you coach me to speak to people appropriately to get them to do what I want them to do, even though there's no money involved? They know that they're being blessed from high above, but
So tell me, if you were to put it into one sentence, what would you really want to get out of it? What is your ultimate hope? What is your goal here? When you walk out of here today, what is it that you want to say you can now do?
I want you to explain to me how I can communicate with a group of people. Just say I work with the women, and I'm talking about a conference that we're having, and I need different people to do different things. They want to have the conference, but no one wants to do anything. You can't imagine. But so how do you get people on board to do something when they're looking at you like, you're talking to her, right? You're talking to her, right?
So why do you think that is? What do you think is stopping them from wanting to do something?
It seems like people like to do things or ask for things to be done, like the conference, they ask for the conference, but then they don't want to participate to make the conference happen.
So let me do this. Put yourself in their shoes, and the first lady has come and spoken to you about these things. What is it that you would, especially if it was something, maybe it's something even that you're struggling to want to do, what would you expect from that person that would make you go, oh, I'd really like to do this?
Okay. Okay, I asked for you to do this. Is it the first lady, so I'm the church member now. I want us to have a conference. I want to come. I want it to be free. So I don't understand why there's a fee. I want there to be food, but I don't want to participate in helping serve it. I just want to come there and eat it and come to the conference. So I don't understand why you're charging. I don't understand why you need us to help serve the food. I don't understand those two things. So what could you say to me to make me understand why I need to serve? I just want to come and sit perfectly on the back row, by the door, so if I want to leave early.
But what is it that you want? That's what I'm looking for. What would move you to want to serve more?
I just want to come and listen and see what the conference is about. I just want to hear what the people have to say. Because I like coming, dressing up, being with the people,
Okay.
Hey,
So
nice.
if you're
The more you want.
now you're telling me you have a couple of things that you see as sort of motivators to get people there. How can you connect what's motivating them to be there to what you're asking them to do? What options do you have in that? How do you connect them and bring them together?
And now back to the first lady now, right? I'm hoping that because some of the ladies have asked about a conference and now we have the conference coming, that everyone would be on board. It's hard. It seems like no matter what you do for people, you can't get everybody on board. You get those few little grumbly people. So it's just hard to connect with those people. That's a real struggle for me. So when I'm having a meeting and we're asking questions and we're trying to move forward to make things happen and everybody's looking like you're talking to her, that's a real struggle.
Can you
So-
give them incentive? Like if you volunteer, you don't have to pay.
Oh,
Who's coaching here?
okay.
Freaking peanut
They'd
gallery.
be lining up at the door.
Let's do it this way. So we're probably going to go a little over, but I want to help. So you think of your best friend. Think of the people that you're close with. I know every first lady has those close ones. What is it about them that makes you want to stay close to them?
We have things in common. We have experiences that we have went through that connect us. We have things, I said in common, that connect us, that make, we love each other at this point because it's been, many years of relationship. I'm sorry,
No, there's nothing wrong. That's great.
that would be my answer.
Let me ask you this. How much time have you invested into the rest of the folks there in understanding their stories and maybe even finding a common ground?
Okay, so I think I have invested some time in them because what I did, maybe as an incentive, was I bought all of them a notebook from me, and I wrote all of them a personal note from me in their book, and I passed them out to them at the meeting. Just trying to say thanks and give a connection between us, and I wrote all of them a personal note based on an experience, that I had with them. So that was kind of, for me, trying to, I said to them, I appreciate you because, you're here. It's like the same 20 people that come every time we have a meeting. I appreciate them. I thank them for how good they are to me. And you know, just try to encourage them to grow and be better, and talk to them about some other things that we can do for growth spiritually and financially, you know, just moving forward, so.
How do you take that to the next level?
Right. That was your question, how did I take that? So I told them at the conference that I would have someone there that would speak to them about financial and spiritual growth, but mainly financial and just kind of what we do for ourselves as our next step in our growth process as a group of women. Okay, so they seem to be receptive of that.
Okay. And this is not done yet? This is
Right, that's
still to
that's
come?
coming, right.
Okay. Do you have any other plans? Any other
Not
thoughts
right
on
now,
what you could
not
do?
right now, not right now.
Okay. All right, so we're out
Yeah,
of
we're
time.
out of
But
time.
so it sounds like your action plan is to take this next step.
Right.
All right, so we'll conclude there.
Okay, all right, sorry,
Thank you.
y'all.
Tell me your name.
Linda.
Linda. Nice to meet you, Linda. Good to meet you. All right, so this last part, and we'll try to make it brief. It's only supposed to be a few minutes max, but this is just sort of a discussion piece. And I really want to talk to Linda, and I want to hear from all of you. What did you gain from that? What observations, first of all, did you all make?
I noticed that you took time to be patient, try to feel out what the real issues were. And a lot of times, a problem or issue that you have, people just don't take the time to sit down and think it through or bounce it off somebody else.
I like that you asked open-ended questions and also gain a new appreciation for the challenge of really trying to draw information out of people. It's really challenging to really get people to dig deep. So I do like the way that you ask those open-ended questions, try to get her to really think about the scenarios.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
like the way you took the time to listen to her. You were not quick to give her advice right away. You actually just sat and heard her out.
That's one of the challenges I think that a lot of folks that are in a coaching stance have is fighting the urge to give advice, because it comes. Trust me, I want to jump out and well, you could do this, but you got to suppress it. Did you have something, Steph? Yes, sir.
I like you follow your models consistently.
Okay.
I think which is very important.
Yeah, a model does help. It's a guide for the coach too. Absolutely. Stephanie, anything else?
I like all the questions that you asked, and it was really, you're really paying attention to the other person. It's, to me as a manager, I appreciate that. Learn from it.
Excellent. All right. Cool. So ahead. One last thing. I want to ask Linda, what about that session, that little mini session, could have been better?
That we just had? I can't think of anything that would have been better other than we may need to do it some other time.
It is hard to cram that into 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Turn it into a real situation.
Exactly. But I think under the circumstances, it was fine. What I think I took away from it the most for myself to actually use was the open-ended questions part, because I do ask them questions, but I'm kind of asking them yes and no questions. And even though I say, any thoughts, concerns, questions, that's still not open-ended. That's yes or no. So I need to ask open-ended questions so that they have to respond with a sentence at least. So
Okay.
that's what I would, what I took away from it for me. But
Excellent.
I
Well, thank you
appreciate
for
you.
doing that. I really appreciate that. It's sometimes hard to find volunteers. So at this point, it concludes our time. Thank you all for listening. I hope this was beneficial. Sounds like it was.